What's up, y'all? So today we are going over the steps of how I create these characters that I make, and truth be told, it's really easy. To start off, I usually just watch a lot of anime. That's how I come up with all these ideas, and one of those inspirations is definitely One Piece, because all of the powers and all of the diversity that they have in the characters, the lore, and on top of that, definitely their body builds. I don't use the way like they make the bodies so much, but when it comes to the powers and the concepts that they use, that is definitely what I would want to go after. Then once I see something that I like, I grab it and I use it to make a concept, and that's what you see here. So this character was actually based off of I wouldn't say enemy. Well, I mean, he became an ally to Goku in Dragon Ball Z. Well, actually, no. What Dragon was Dragon Ball GT? Yeah, it was Dragon Ball GT. And the guy had weapons that he could protrude from his shoulders. They start off as spikes, and then they came out as swords. So that's what you see me doing right here. So after I finished the weapons and creating that concept, I designed the cloak for him. So you see me adjusting him and then kind of making a build to what I want and what I like for this character. So I'm just going in, adding the details, and I take references from different pictures, and I highly recommend Pinterest. Use Pinterest. That's where you get all the best kinds of sketches, all the best kind of references to use. It's a wide range of everything, and it's not just for art either, honestly. So you see me going in now, and I'm using the MF Doom reference with his mask, and then I use that mask to design my own helmet for him. So you see me here, I'm just designing all the other angles and going in and yet again adjusting everything. And that's what I like about Procreate too, because they have so many tools like warping and just using this certain brush. It's like a special brush where you could go in and use options like liquefy, which distorts and warps your lines or your art that you're doing. And there's just a whole bunch of tools you can utilize, and it's quick to use and easy to access rather than Photoshop. Photoshop is a little bit harder. I'm trying to get used to that. Once I get it, I'm still using Procreate currently. So, and the tip that I would give you guys is that when you are designing these characters, don't be afraid to use a mistake as your advantage. What I mean by that is, once you probably made a mistake, think of a way to work with it instead of around it. But obviously, if it's terrible, just, get out of the image. Yeah, I tend to use my errors and think of ideas or ways where I can utilize it. I could probably add it in for my character as a power or ability, and just other things of that nature. And back on to the armor. So right here, I'm picking my colors. I'm actually using the colors of the MF Doom mask because it just made it easier. Then I also liked it anyways, so I was just utilizing that. And I really like the MF Doom design. It's just so cool, and it just works well with the helmet. So I just continue to add those colors and saturation throughout the entire fit of my character. As I start adding in the chestplate armor piece, I would describe it as like a vibranium type of armor. It's really strong, and it goes right under the cloak of this character. And his armor does have shock wave reduction, so if it gets hit with a projectile, it will most likely do a little bit of damage, but he can take it. The defense on his armor has a lot of poise, which makes him a very high quality type of character. As I start getting closer and closer to finishing this character, I ended up naming this character Warvex. Yeah, Warvex, Warvex. And it's the mix of war and vortex. So I kind of came up with that because he's a mercenary essentially, and he's an anti-hero. So he's kind of like Deadpool, essentially, a little bit, because Deadpool, he's portrayed as a hero, and I know the recent movies has portrayed him as a hero, but I think in the comics and stuff like that, he just not just kills just to kill, but he gets the job done and whatnot. And I know he works with the X-Men and stuff like that. So I kind of think of Deadpool a little bit as an anti-hero also, but definitely a very cool guy. I'm just going in and adding the highlights now for the armor and the cloak, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. I try to get sort of a metallic look, and that's the one thing with shading for sure. That's probably one of the hardest parts, because you have to shade correctly according to what material you want for your character. Since you're doing metal, it's gonna be more harder. I don't know how to explain. I'm still learning myself how to shade metal, but yeah, his chest plate and his leggings, like his shin guard type of armor that he has on his shins, is this metal type of texture. Now we're on to the designing of the sword. So yet again, I took some colors from the helmet that I already added on in there, and I utilized that and put it on the sword. As you can see, put the highlights in on the handle, and I like the way that this sword works, because pulls it out, starts off as looking like a bat, but then it protrudes out the blades that is inside of the sword, so it's easy to put back into his shoulder, and it's very accessible and quick when going in for attacks or getting ready to attack, unsheathing the sword to go up against different enemies. And like I said, guys, don't be afraid to take references from animes and just twist their powers a little bit, because that's where I get my imagination and focuses from, just different animes and utilizing them. Can't stress that enough. And this is where I start adding the effects in on the character. So as you see, it's this flow state kind of thing that the character is in right now, Warvex, and his powers is warping. So now we're on the page where we're designing his attacks and what he does during battle. This is probably my favorite part of the whole thing. Yeah, I was kind of tired. I was definitely tired at this point, but as you see, I took another reference from Pinterest, and I'm using that to kind of shape the sword and just putting effects all around. This is just straight up him demonstrating what he can do. And the first attack that he shows is that he can warp. He's getting to his stance first, and then he warps, and it's like this huge ball. And then once he gets done with that, he comes out and he finishes with a warping slash type of attack. And the thing I could think of for that would be how in Street Fighters, I forgot his name, but he's like a military guy, and he does that sonic boom attack, and he throws like this disc type of thing, projectile. But yeah, so that's his first attack power, and then we got a defensive power for him. So he slams his sword in the ground and summons a warping wall in front of him. And what that does, it can actually block projectiles. Not only that, but it can send the projectiles back to the enemy after it has been sucked in. So the warping wall grabs it and sends it back, probably at the same speed too. But of course, we can't have too much of an overpowered character. And the final power that we are getting to is his power up. So you see right here, it just boosts his sass pretty much. It boosts his warping power, teleportation, distortion of shapes, and more. Alright y'all, here's the final product of our pieces and designs for this character concept, Warvex. Hope you guys liked the video. Make sure you guys share, comment, hit that subscribe button for me, please. I'll catch you guys in the next one.